Good morning. Welcome everyone to this very special Saturday morning, to our very special workshop, the program called Death, Dying and Moving On. Word death, when we hear, most of us are not comfortable to even talk about it or even to hear this word. And today we are in a treat or to be able to understand why is that this fear is there. Maybe because we don't know the more detailed or deeper aspects of our life. And for this very special insight to share wisdom, we have with us our featured speaker, Dr. Sritang Agarwal, who is a cardiac anesthesiologist by profession. Sorry for my pronunciation. He has been practicing this Raj Yoga meditation for more than 21 years, and he passionately enjoys and experiments with all the methods and principles of Raj Yoga meditation. Personally, I have known Sritang by quite a few years, probably 15 years, I'm not too sure. But every time you hear this voice is very calming, very soothing, and always have this clarity in his voice, which also makes one comfortable and giving us that confidence. This is how I have known Sritang Bhai. Before I invite Sritang Bhai to share the wisdom with us for today's very special topic, just like to make few more announcements for our upcoming events. One of the main is we have 3 different dates with 3 different timings, which you are seeing on the screen. We are offering Learn to Meditate course. It's a Raj Yoga Meditation course. One batch is starting next week. The next one is starting on weekends, which is on May 1st. And the next third one will start in middle of May, which will be during the week. Also, we do have insight sessions on Thursdays, but that also you can find it on the website. There is creative meditation session we do like 7 to 8:30 p.m. That's also on Thursday evening. Plus we have peace conversation and we call World Meditation Hour, which is third Sunday of every month from 5:30 to 6:30 is 1 hour conversation followed by meditation. As well as we have open meditation every evening, Monday through Friday, 6:30 to 7:30. All of you are welcome to join any of these that I just mentioned. More details, you can find us on our website, themeditationcenter.net. And having said this, now we will be welcome our dear brother, I would say, Sritang Bhai, to lead us to share his wisdom and to give us the more deeper understanding of our life. Thank you. Sritang Bhai, please.
Thank you, Sister Parul. Your introduction was so sweet. Yeah, and you're 100% right. It has been 15 years since we've known each other. We came to US in January 2006, and probably that was when we connected with you. And I've always found Sister Parul a very sweet soul, and you got a glimpse of her sweetness as she was introducing me and the programs at the Meditation Center. For me, the Meditation Center has been a place where I have learned a lot. We lived in Hershey for 1 year, and we had the opportunity to visit the meditation center quite often at Cinnaminson, and learned a lot, had great experiences. And so for those of you who are not too far away from Cinnaminson, I invite you all to visit there when the time is right. Right now it isn't, and there are protocols in place to protect everyone with the COVID pandemic that we are encountering at this time. But as it opens up, I'm sure you all will have the opportunity to visit and take the benefit that I got as well. And I know that word, the title anesthesiologist, is not very easy to pronounce. And I too have difficulty, and I practice it every day before I go into the patient's room. So please don't worry. It's never easy to say that complicated word. I wish we as anesthesiologists could have come up with something a little more easy for others to pronounce. But anyway, so let's dive into this workshop. And as this is a workshop, I was hoping to get all of you to work a little bit. I would like to start by saying that I don't have an agenda, a personal agenda. My pure desire is that I can help alleviate some of the suffering that humanity is going through in general, and especially during these unprecedented times. I think if I remember my earlier days, there was a tremendous amount of suffering I went through because of this whole aspect of death and dying. And I will share that later, my personal story. But I feel like Sister Parul was saying, there um, fear actually stems from ignorance. That's what I have realized over many years. And the only way to, therefore, get rid of fear is to educate
Hello.
ourselves.
Hello.
Yes, educate ourselves. And so, like, for example, just an example, I'm sure snakes scare everyone. I don't know of anyone who is not afraid of snakes, right? But there are people who are not afraid of snakes, the snake charmers, for example, or the people who um, make a living out of catching these poisonous snakes that exist everywhere in different countries. There are different types of snakes, and they are able to take out the venom, and that's used to create anti-venom that saves people's lives. They don't get afraid of snakes because they understand the behavior of the snakes. They understand what are the different types of snakes, and so on and so forth. So similarly, once we begin to understand death as it is, the reality, the actuality of death, then we too will cease to be afraid of death. And that's my hope, to help the people who are suffering because of its fear. So let me share my PowerPoint. I honestly don't like to use PowerPoints on Zoom. So I was vacillating between sharing a PowerPoint, using a PowerPoint versus not, because what happens is that I can't see all of you. But then finally I did decide to use a PowerPoint because it does give a visual impact, if you will, to the entire learning experience. Is, I feel, gets enhanced. So before we go on to the presentation, I do want to cover a lot of ground, but my hope is that I get to learn from all of you too. So during the presentation, you are most welcome to stop me, to interrupt me, ask questions if you want. There will be people who will be looking at the chat box all the time, and they can let me know if I miss out, or if you want to say something, you're welcome to say as well. Don't worry that my chain of thought will be disrupted, because honestly, I don't have any chain of thought. I really am surrendering to God, to the forces of universe to guide me through this presentation. I want to truly present as if with that consciousness that I'm an instrument of God. And so if I do miss out on something, it probably is what was supposed to be. And if I am not able to present everything that I thought I wanted to present, or I would be presenting, then even that is okay. So please don't restrain yourself in asking questions or commenting as and when you feel the desire to do so. So, but before we go on to the rest of the presentation, I thought, because it's a workshop, let me ask you to ponder on a few questions. And so the first question is, on a scale of 0 to 10, with 0 being no fear and 10 being the maximum fear ever, what number would you give to your current level of fear of death? Take a moment.
2.
Okay, good, good. All right. You're welcome to unmute and answer. You're welcome to type in the chat box. You're welcome to not say at all. Whatever works for you. But the reason why I'm asking you to ponder on this is because I want you to check between the beginning of the presentation and at the end of the presentation as we go through this exploration together as to what has changed, if at all it does change. So let me look at the chat box.
3.
3. That's good. Yeah, 1, 2, 3. These are excellent numbers, but
I think 3.
3. All right. I remember many years back, mine was beyond 10. Yeah, it was through the roof. It was almost a crippling fear of death. So I must congratulate all of you for having such low numbers. Then probably you don't need my presentation. You're already there, which is awesome. So let's go on to the second one. What do you fear most about death? In other words, what's your primary fear about death?
The spouse being not together at this time, that is the primary concern.
Spouse not being, say that again. I'm sorry, I didn't understand.
My husband right now, he is down in India, so I'm little concerned.
Right. Yes. Okay.
I would say suffering.
The suffering. Yes. Yes. Wonderful. What else?
One is leaving behind somebody who's dependent on you.
Yes.
That is what I would fear the most if I am no more.
Wonderful. Yeah. Anything else? I think there are lots of chat messages. I'll try to read through those. Loss of consciousness and connection with the family, lingering death, my lost thought, grief caused by family, the process of dying, yes, death of near ones, painful long suffering, responsibility unfulfilled, having a painful suffering death, the knowledge I'm learning won't turn out to be true. Oh, that is another fear. Oh, okay. Leaving responsibility, suffering. Wonderful. These are amazing questions. I mean, amazing answers, amazing responses. Fear of losing loved one. All right. And then I guess the last question is a little redundant. Yeah, because you're all here. So you definitely want to learn more about how to fix your fear of death, whatever the number is. So yes, I'm sure the answer is yes to this last question. Do you want to sort out your fear of death? But the more important part is the last part of this. Why?
Wow. Hi.
Why would you like to sort out your fear of death?
Yeah. Oh, okay. Yeah. Now I'm doing a class, but I'll talk to you.
I think some person's microphone is on.
The kids, they're coming Monday.
So we can start living our life.
Yeah, start living her life more meaningfully, right? Because you feel that this fear of death is not allowing you or allowing us to experience life in its fullest, right? That's a wonderful answer. Anything else? You don't even have to answer if you don't want to, but just something to ponder upon. We have to accept. Yeah. Wonderful. All right. So let me go further. So let me take you through my own journey. And for me, just like every other person, childhood, is a time to run around, play around, have fun. And then very soon I got into medical school and everything changed for me. For the first few months to probably a year, Some of you who have been through this journey of becoming a doctor would know what I'm talking about. That the first year and a half is the time of euphoria. You feel on the top of the world. Getting selected into medical school is a great achievement in itself, and you kind of a little full of it. And but then soon you start getting into the clinics. You start going to the hospital. And I was in a government hospital, and going there, I found that there was a constant shortage of medicines, constant shortage of beds, and all the other resources that you can think of. And I would see a lot of death. And I thought that being a doctor, death is a failure for us. And I did everything I could during the years of going to clinics and then eventually going on to doing a residency in anesthesiology in India. I just couldn't understand how, despite the best of our efforts, we were not able to save people's lives. And I would see bodies being brought to the morgue every now and then, almost every single day, because of, again, lack of medicines, shortage of blood, lack of other resources as well. And it's interesting that the morgue in my medical school was on the way towards the boys' hostel. So it was somewhere between the hospital, the college, and the boys' hostel. And that was the only way to go to the boys' hostel. So every day as we would go back to the boys' hostel, I would see bodies being brought to the morgue. And it was a strange feeling. On one hand, I tried to block it all off, but I wasn't successful. And there was a time when I would see myself among those bodies, lying there waiting to be cut open for the post-mortem and things like that, or for the families to come and claim the body. Or I would see my family members among those. And there were many, many nights when I couldn't sleep. It actually became crippling for me at one point. And then there was a phase where I sort of tried to ignore it. And I just couldn't. And then this journey started and trying to understand what death is all about. And then I came to know about the Brahma Kumaris. I started the Raj Yoga Meditation course. And the next 21 years of my journey with the Brahma Kumaris taught me many beautiful insights, which have helped me understand death as it really is, to some extent at least. And I have been able to process my own fear of death considerably. And so my hope is that by the end of the session, I have also helped each one of you process your fear of death, if there is. I saw some one or twos, that you don't have too much of fear of death, which is awesome. But also in a way to be able to welcome. Mhm. I think somebody's microphone is again. Maybe Brother Gokul, you could mute all, and then they can unmute themselves if they want to. Yes. Okay. So, so not just be free from the fear of death, but actually be able to accept death as it is and to be able to welcome it. Yeah. This is my hope. And so let me show you a couple of movie clips. And I'm so glad that this kind of conversation has come into mainstream movies as well. And this is a clip from the movie Peach Adams by, and this actor, the famous actor, Robin Williams. Let's watch it quickly together.
Did you consider the ramifications of your actions? What if one of your patients had died?
What's wrong with death, sir? What are we so mortally afraid of? Why can't we treat death with a certain amount of humanity and dignity and decency and, God forbid, maybe even humor? Death is not the enemy, gentlemen. If we're going to fight a disease, let's fight one of the most terrible diseases of all, indifference.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. What's wrong with death, sir? What are we so mortally afraid of? Why can't we treat death with certain amount of humanity and dignity and decency, and God forbid, maybe even humor? And
Did you consider?
And here is another movie clip from, actually it's a TV series called as Long Street, I guess, where Bruce Lee is trying to teach this blind man how to fight. And so the fight is supposed to be the next day. And Bruce Lee is trying to coach this gentleman. So let's listen to this too. Let's watch this clip.
When is it? Tomorrow. You are not ready. I know. Like everyone else, you want to learn the way to win, but never to accept the way to lose. To accept defeat, to learn to die is to be liberated from it. So when tomorrow comes, you must free your ambitious mind and learn the art of dying. May it be well with you, Mike.
So beautifully said. To learn to die is to be liberated from it. So if we want to be liberated from death, we have to learn to die. So when tomorrow comes, you must free your ambitious mind and learn the art of dying.
When?
All right. So the fear of death, I asked you all these questions about, where is your rating of fear, but also what kind of fear do you have about fear? I think somebody's mic is still on. I would appreciate if the mics can be muted. Then you will have a great experience. All this is being recorded, so you will have a great experience, and so will others. Yeah, so the fear of death. So what I have figured out after a lot of research, that there are 6 fears of death, the 6 types of fear of death. The first one would be, say, the fear of the uncertainty of what lies after death. Yeah, will I be locked up in a cage or in total darkness? Will I be stuck for eternity in some space where I won't have access to anything? Will I turn into an animal? What will happen in the future? What is afterlife about, if there is? Or fear of the pain/suffering during the actual process of our and our loved one's death. Yeah, this was something that was brought up in the chat. I think I remember somebody mentioning this fear, that when we are dying, what will happen at that moment? Will there be pain? Will there be suffering at that moment of death? Then there's another fear, the fear of leaving loved ones behind. Yeah, I think there is still some echo, some reverberation. Brother Gokul, may I request you to mute them if possible? Yeah. Or maybe what you could do for a little bit is, when you mute everyone, you can uncheck where they can't unmute themselves unless they raise their hands. That way, there won't be any reverberation. Yeah, okay, good. And so the next fear is fear of leaving loved ones behind and the concern for their well-being. That was mentioned too, right? Then the next fear is fear of loneliness when a loved one dies. or what will happen to me. Yeah, the earlier one was what will happen to my loved ones when I am no longer with them. And this one is fear of what will happen to me when a loved one dies. I'll be lonely. The next is fear of not achieving anything substantial before dying. And the last one, and especially in today's world, is fear of dying alone, especially because of COVID. Many times patients are dying alone. We are seeing that across the world, when family members are not allowed to be next to or even be close by, as the patient is dying. And so these are all legitimate fears. And my hope is that through this workshop, we will be able to figure out how to process each of these fears. All right. And so on a little bit of a lighter vein, there are a few more questions that I request all of you to ponder upon. The first is, if you were told that you have a chance to live forever, would you accept that? So let's say somebody is here to grant you a wish, and that wish is to live forever, the opportunity to live forever. Would you accept that? Or how long would you be ready to live? What would you say? Let me look at the chat box.
No, I wouldn't.
Yes, if physically and mentally fit. All right, that's a good answer too. No, not at all. No, no. But pretty much it's all no. All right, let's go to the next one. If you were told that along with you, everyone around you will also live forever, how okay are you with that? Everybody will live forever. Are you ready to live with your spouse forever? Or would you like a new spouse? Are you okay with living with the current spouse, for example, for the rest of eternity? Yes. So, all right. Yeah, these are things to be thought about, because in a way to understand that death brings newness. Death equals forgetting. There's amnesia with death. And when there is death, you are reborn. If you don't die, or if no one dies, there won't be rebirth. And if there's no rebirth, then there's no newness. Think about it, even if you have the best car. Let's say you have a very expensive car. You wouldn't want to hold on to it forever, right? You will get bored of it. You will want something new. A new, fresh car feeling, it's great. Even if your house is the most beautiful house, you don't want to live in it forever. You want a new house. A new, fresh house feeling is awesome. Yeah. And you look at a small child, when the child wakes up from this sleep that it was in within the mother's womb, as it comes out, it looks at everything. Everything looks so new. There's new learning, new understanding. All that we would miss if we don't die ever. Don't you agree? So death has a very beautiful reason, a beautiful purpose. It gives us a chance to relearn, to re-understand, and to relive life in many new and different ways. Let's go further. So if we go into religion, and there's quite a bit of mention about death. And in fact, lots of scriptures have been written just on death and how can we kind of understand death in a better way. And actually, there is a picture in Europe, I think in Vienna, where, or I'm not sure, but it's probably in Venice, where they have this, they call it as the dance macabre. I'm not sure whether I'm pronouncing it right or not, called as the dance of death. And in this picture, if you see, you see a rich person, a poor person, somebody crippled, somebody living a normal life, an ordinary human being off the streets. And between each of these, there is a skeleton. And so what it really signifies is that everyone, whether you're rich or poor, whether you are intelligent or dumb, whether you are healthy or crippled, whether you belong to a royal family or to an ordinary family, everyone has to die. And there is this beautiful text that is in Christianity called as Ars Moriendi, the art of dying. So when we learn the art of dying, that's when we can truly understand what life is about. And the art of living comes only when we understand the art of dying. And the reverse is true too. We cannot understand the art of dying, or in other words, we cannot truly die well unless we learn the art of living. And truly, when we live life to its fullest potential, that's when we are able to die meaningfully. I don't know what this thing has, what is this here? There's a mark that has come up on my screen. I don't know whether you can see it or not, but I can see it, but it's okay. So there is a very beautiful doha or a poem, if you will, written by one of the ancient mystics of India. And some of you who are from India or who understand Hindi will be able to understand this. It says, "Aaye hain to jayenge, Raja Rang Fakir. एक सिंहासन चढ़ी चले, एक बंधे जंजीर." What that means is we are all born to die. Yeah, each one who has come onto this earth has to die. Whether we are kings, beggars, so Raja is king, Rank is beggar, Fakir is holy man. Ek singhasan chadi chale means that our deeds decide whether we leave this world sitting on a throne or be dragged away by chains. So how we die depends on how we live our lives. So in a way to understand that death is the ultimate truth of life, we all will die, whether we like it or not. But on the other hand, and in the same token, death is the ultimate lie of the universe. None of us can ever die if we understand who we truly are. So on one hand, there is this clear understanding of impermanence. Everything has to change. Change is inevitable. But on the other hand, once we begin to change or shift our consciousness to who we truly are, then we begin to experience permanence, eternality, and immortality. And so here is what would kind of make this clear for all of us, the body-soul paradigm. See, we are so stuck in the physicality of our existence. This is what has been taught to us ever since we were born into this world, the whole of the society, the world around us, emphasizes so much of this paradigm for us that this becomes our reality. Our physical body, the name, our religion, our gender. But think of it, all of these things were not what we brought with us. These were all acquired. These were told to us. These were informed to us. And all of this becomes our identity. But this is not truly who we are. There's a different dimension to our existence, and that is our true self, who we really are, the soul, the life energy, the spirit. And so to understand that if we are stuck or we function from the physical paradigm or the physical dimension of our existence, there is going to be constantly a fear, because in this physical existence of ours, there is constant change. There is impermanence, and also there is limitedness. Everything is limited. Whereas as soon as we shift into our true identity, the soul consciousness, if you will, that we say in Brahma Kumaris, or the spiritual paradigm of our existence, then we understand that everything is permanent. Because in this space, in this paradigm, nothing changes. Why? Because energy can neither be destroyed nor created. It just simply changes its form. So we exist forever in this paradigm, whereas we can never exist forever in this paradigm. So if we can shift our consciousness from the physical to the spiritual, to the metaphysical, the non-physical, then we can experience immortality, eternality, and permanence as much as we want. Make sense? So the fear goes away. If we cannot die in the spiritual paradigm of our existence, then there is no fear of death. So our physical existence definitely will end, but our spiritual existence can never end. Isn't that reassuring now? Doesn't that give you a relief? Yeah? All right. So let's dive into a little bit of quantum physics. I have put a few examples here of things that we are so attached to, our cars, our houses, for example. Some of us are very attached to our cell phones. Some of us are very attached to other physical things. But just for an example, I put a car, a house, you, me, right? You, me would mean the physical forms, right? You see your spouse, your friends, your distant relatives, your colleagues, all of everything that you see around you, including even maybe your pets. Now, if you break these things down, these are all made up of molecules. So a car is made up of molecules, a house is made up of molecules, your body, my body, we're all made up of molecules. In a way, there is no way to differentiate one molecule of a particular thing from another molecule of that particular thing. For example, a water molecule looks like a water molecule for wherever you go. All water molecules look exactly the same. But we talk about the molecular structure changing is because many molecules come together and create structures, and that happens, and we can talk about it later. But if you go deeper into the real structure of the molecules, they're all made up of atoms. And truly speaking, there is no way to know whether this atom or any atom that you have differs from any other atom on this planet. In other words, all atoms are exactly alike. And if you go deeper, there are subatomic particles. Each atom consists of some neutrons and electrons and protons. And now there are things even smaller to that. They're called as quarks. And they're up quarks and down quarks. But at the atom and the subatomic particle level, there is no way you can differentiate a proton of me, or from my body, and a proton from your body, or from a dog, or from a plant, or from a table, or a chair, or your cell phone. Everything looks alike. And then it's so interesting that quantum physicists found that at the core of all of matter that you can think around you, there is really no matter. These particles that they were trying to look at and experiment with, they found that they really don't exist. At the core of all of these particles is just energy. And these particles really come in and out of existence as we are trying to observe them. So in other words, all of matter, all of this universe is really just energy. You, I, all objects, all plants, all animals, everything is merely energy. Now this kind of shakes us a little bit. It shakes our current understanding of things around us. Because when we look at our cell phone, yes, it exists, right? It is a structure. But really speaking, it is merely an illusion. It is structure that it is energy in a way that is organized in such a dense way that it gives us an illusion of an object. But at the core of it, it really is just energy. So all the things that we are attached to, all of matter, if you will, that we are attached to, including our bodies, including the bodies of our loved ones, really doesn't exist. It's all energy, truly. So what is not matter? Yeah, in other words, there is no matter, then it really doesn't matter. Or does it? Think about it. There is no matter really. It is merely an illusion. And I can take us into such interesting understanding of what is an illusion and what is a truth. Truly speaking, in a way, around us, everything is an illusion. All that we think as truth, all that we think as reality is really an illusion. Even the understanding of the present moment, we say many times, the past is past, the future, we don't know, future is a mystery in a way. And so the present moment is the moment, right? That we can experience. But I can prove it to you that even the present moment doesn't exist. In a way, you don't exist even in the present moment. And I can explain to you. See, for example, if there's a bird that is flying from left to right. And as the bird is flying, you see the bird flying, right? And how do you see the bird flying? Because light gets reflected from, as it falls on the bird, gets reflected off the bird, comes towards your eyes, goes through the lens, which has to kind of change its structure a little bit so that the rays of light coming from the bird get focused on your retina. From there, it is changed into neural kind of signals that go to the brain, and then the brain has to process that information, and then you know that there's a bird flying from left to right. But you understand that as the bird is flying, say in this moment, you say the bird is right here. But by the time you notice the bird has reached there, it is already past. Because there is time required for the brain to process all of that information. So the present that you're looking at is already past. The bird has already moved forward. So every moment we as human beings are constantly projecting the past into the present and the present into the future and pulling the future into the present to give ourselves the experience of past, present, and future. So in a way, everything is an illusion. Death is an illusion too. Life is an illusion too. So what are we so afraid of death? Yeah. And in a way, think of it as we are all part of a big ocean of energy, this quantum field, the entire universe with all its undulations. Each wave of the ocean is unique and cannot be compared to any other. The ocean manifests itself through each of its waves. And the entire universe similarly manifests through each of us in various ways. So we are all part of one field of energy, one quantum field, one big ocean of energy, which can never be destroyed and was never created. Making sense? All right, so now if you go into psychology, what we are realizing is that there are two levels of death. There's one that is the physical death, where our physical processes, the biochemical processes, the histological changes that happen along with all these biochemical changes, eventually culminate in cessation of any activity within our cells, and we call it as physical death. But there is something more important than this physical death, and that is, sorry, this was not supposed to come before this. So it's the ego death, the death of the ego. Because in a way, death that we think about is the biggest assault on our ego. All that we have accumulated so far, all that we have collected so far, all that we have acquired so far, my house, my car, my name, my fame, my relations, yeah, my bank balance, my 401k, yeah, my lovely watch, my lovely cell phone, my trophy husband, my trophy wife, all of those things, yeah, all that we will have to leave behind. All that we will lose. And that is the ultimate death of the ego. Ultimate assault on the ego that hurts us much more than the physical death. Actually, I'll talk about it later. Physical death is painless. Physical death is freedom or liberation from whatever pain that one is going through. There is no problem with physical death. Or whatever pain we have, whatever suffering we have during dying is because of the death of the ego. So in a way, to understand that, that's what I have been understanding through the practice of Raj Yoga, is that if I can kill my ego voluntarily over time, and if the ego is dead by the time my physical death happens, there will not be any suffering. And this is what is called in Brahma Kumari's Raj Yoga as dying alive. So as I'm living my life, if I can work on deconstructing my ego, which is not easy. Ego is all pervasive into our consciousness. It has gone into our very DNA, into our bone marrow, if you will. It has really permeated all of our existence. And so it's not easy to deconstruct it. But like a Legos game, yeah, we have to work on it. And if we have worked on it enough, then we would have no problem whatsoever in dying. All right, and so now we'll take a little bit of a shift, if you will, into another aspect of spirituality, that is time. Yeah, see, what happens with all of us in the West is we kind of try to look at time as linear. So we are born as small children, babies, we grow up, we kind of are toddlers, and then we start going to school, we become adolescents, then we go to college, and then we kind of become adults, we get married and then have kids, and then old age and real old age, and then we die. So almost as if death is the culmination of everything that we have done. Again, this is the biggest assault for the ego. And so what happens is we try to cram up everything in this one lifetime, because death is going to end everything. And so it's almost like a race against time. Whereas the ancient scriptures, whereas the true wisdom of the ascetics, including what I've learned through my practice of Raj Yoga in Brahma Kumaris, we've understood, and I have personally understood, that life is cyclical. So what I mean by cyclical is that after death, the soul gets reborn and there is a new life. And after that life that ends with death, there's another life. So it goes round and round and round. And so in a way, understand this. It's very important a concept. And I want to take a few moments here. See, for example, if you are supposed to do something in this minute and you're not able to do it because of whatever reason, you don't get bent out of shape usually, right? You say, all right, I'll do it in the next minute. If you are supposed to do something in this particular hour and you're not able to do it again for some reason, then you feel, oh, no worries, I can do it in the next hour. If you're not able to do something today, you know that you can do it tomorrow because tomorrow will come again. Some of us are very stuck in this thing, like I was. I had to finish everything today. I had the slogan for myself, I cannot let the sun down or sunset on whatever I need to do. And that was the big reason for my stress. So whatever you can't do in this day, you can always do it the next day. Because after the end of a day, what comes is another day. Again, what you are not able to achieve in a month, you can do it in the next month. Whatever you can't achieve in 2021, you can achieve in 2022. You see, after every second, there's another second. After every minute, there's another minute. After every hour, there's another hour. After every day, after every week, after every month, and after every year. In fact, after every decade, there's another decade. Similarly, if we can step back further and understand that after every lifetime, there's another lifetime. The soul doesn't die. The spirit doesn't die. The life force, the energy never perishes. The life force goes from one body to the next, to the next, to the next. And so what you cannot achieve in this lifetime, you can achieve in the next lifetime. So what's the fear? What's the worry? Some of us do get upset, right? Who don't understand that we can achieve what we didn't achieve in 2021 in 2022, right? Some of us do get bent out of shape. I was one of those. I had to do everything today. And I used to drive everybody around me up the wall too. Got to get this thing done, got to get this thing done. But then people around me, including my wife, would say, why are you so upset? It's okay. We can do it tomorrow. Yeah, no, I got to do it now. And that's exactly what happens for our lifetimes too. No, we got to achieve this in this lifetime. So more cars, more houses, more vacations. more of everything that we want, and that causes stress for ourselves and for people around us. That's why we are not able to live meaningfully. But if we understand that death really doesn't happen, or death is merely a pause, if you will, yeah, in the lifetime of ours, before we go on to the next lifetime. In a way, think about it, death is super meaningful, actually. I like to see it as a punctuation at the end of the sentence. Without punctuation, the sentence would have no meaning. Or you can look at it as the space between words. Without the space, there are no words, really. There is no meaning to a sentence with all the words going into each other. So without death, really, there is no importance, or there is no life. Just like a punctuation or a space gives meaning to the sentence or to the word, similarly, death brings meaning to our lives. Makes sense? Shall we proceed? So far, so good. Yeah. Let's look at this thing from a biology point of view, the mystery that is the body. I'm going to share some amazing facts with all of you. And did you know that there are almost 37 trillion cells in the body? Yeah. So 1,000 is a million, 1,000 million is a billion, and 1,000 billion is a trillion. So we have 37 trillion cells in the body. And every minute, yeah, did you know that 300 million cells die in your body? And every day, if you add all these numbers, it comes out to 432 billion cells in your body die every day. And that's the number that is replaced every day. That is roughly 2.6% of your body is replaced every day. That means your entire body gets replaced roughly every 40 days. So in a way, every 40 days, you are dead and you're being reborn. In a way, you look at your pictures from childhood when you were a toddler. Do you look anything similar to that? And truly speaking, do you know that if we go into the atomic level, there is not a single atom in your body at this time that you had when you were born. How does that sound? You're already dead in a way. And you have been dead so many times over. In a way, think about it. Every night when you go off to sleep, yeah, what is it? It's like you have died from the world, right? You don't know what is going on. You don't care what is going on. You're tired, you go to bed, and you wake up again. In a way, it is like being reborn. During the night, so many of your cells were replaced. So when you wake up after a good night's sleep, you are not waking up in the same body. That's the truth of the matter. And there's this wonderful quote by a Greek philosopher, Heraclitus. Yeah, I hope I'm pronouncing the name right. But in 544 BC, he said that no man ever steps in the same river twice, for it's not the same river and he's not the same man. Yeah, so every moment, the entire world is changing. It's in a constant state of flux, including our bodies, including our minds, including our understanding. Think about it. Every moment, they say every minute, we are being bombarded by 30 billion or some crazy number, 30 billion bits of information. So much of information is going to us or coming to us every minute. So even if we are able to capture a very small fraction of this information, but it still changes us. We have new experiences every day. We learn new things. We meet new people. We understand new things. So we are not the same person who was present a minute ago. In fact, you are not the same person who was sitting in the beginning of this session as compared to now. You died in between that moment when you started listening to this session till this moment, because you have learned so many new things. You are not the same person. So to understand that every moment everything is changing, so are we. So every moment we are dying. And so what's the big deal about that physical death? Yeah, if we understand this thing of this constant flux, then the actual physical death, when it happens, will not hurt us or will not traumatize us. Then let's take a little deeper look at the law of karma. Yeah, in a way, people call it as the law of retribution, yeah, law of cause and effect. Yeah, but in a way to understand that this whole universe is super interconnected. We are living in what we can call it as a shared humanity. We are all connected so intricately that we can say, I am because you are because I am, we are because of each other, right? And that's the Ubuntu. And that's what we are learning in Raj Yoga, Brahma Kumari's Raj Yoga meditation as well. So whatever actions we perform or we kind of involve ourselves in, each of these actions have ramifications. There's a cause and effect. And if you look at this picture, see each of this domino is bigger than the previous. And there is this beautiful experiment that was done by a scientist who talks about how, he created these dominoes. Each one is double the size of the previous one. And after 12 or 13 of them, there was this big slab that falls. And he says, if I continue for 2 or 3 more of these, then the next slab would be, or the last slab would be as big as the Empire State Building. And that's an amazing thing to say, that you start with such a small domino and the end result is an effect as big as the Empire State Building. So in other words, everything that we do has big ramifications. Yeah, even the smallest negative thought that we create is not innocuous. It's not benign. Everything that we do lingers on through eternity. It travels through time and space and creates big changes in the world around us. And all of these things will always come back to us because of this law of karma, if you will, cause and effect. And so if we want to have a happy death, we have to have a happy life. And for that, we have to take the responsibility in our hands and do the right actions. And in fact, when we say actions, it's not just physical actions, it's each word we speak, and in fact, each thought we think. Because if you say thinking, thinking is a verb, speaking is a verb. So these are actions too. So I have to be careful of what thoughts I create. Even the smallest negative thought will have big ramifications in the world out there. Big ripples will be created, which will come back to me and create negativity in my life. And that negativity will create unhappiness. And if I cannot have a happy life, I cannot have a happy death. And this is why Raj Yoga emphasizes a life of service. Yeah, we have a responsibility for everyone around us. We can help others, we can make their lives better. And when we do that, the happiness that comes in our lives then enables us to experience a more meaningful life. Yeah, that's why we kind of say in Brahma Kumaris, be clear on your purpose. Yeah, and then law of karma also teaches us how to surrender the outcome. In a way, we don't have to do good actions just because they are going to bring goodness or bring happiness to us. That too is ego. That too is selfishness. But doing good because that is the right thing to do. Being clear on the purpose. Why am I doing good? Because that is the right thing to do. That is how I am supposed to be. That's how life is supposed to be. That's how the universe is manifesting through me. And then surrendering the outcome. It doesn't matter what the outcome will be, because if the process is right, the outcome will be right. This is called as karmatit stage. This is called as the true ego death. And when the death of the ego happens as we are living, which we also call as dying alive, then when the actual death happens, there is no pain or suffering. Yeah, so the interconnected universe. We are all living like a matrix. It's a beautiful matrix of our existence with everyone around us. Whatever little change we create at one place or one point in this universe has effect in the entire universe. And so if I'm not careful of what I do, I will disrupt the functioning of the entire universe in which I exist too. Yes, and then to understand that that we have to trust the universe. See, think about it. Here I've put this picture, relax, nothing is under control. You know, how much of our lives is about control, right? We are control freaks, but that control comes from ego. Truly speaking, there is nothing in our control. Yeah, and right from beginning, right from your childhood, you think of it. Did you create yourself? No. Yeah, your parents got together, and that's how you were created, and you were born. Yeah, somebody helped you come out of the birth canal, right? Somebody cleaned you up. Somebody then fed you. Somebody put some clothes on you to keep you warm. Somebody sent you to school. Did you send yourself to school? Did you pay your own tuition fees? Did you buy your own books? No. Somebody took care of you. Whether you want to call it as your parents, but some people don't have a very good functional relationship with their parents. So I don't want to create any disturbance there. But you can think of it as the universe helping through somebody. Somebody helped you, right? Yeah. Took care of you as you grew up. You went to college, and then till date, there is somebody who has been helping you. The universe has taken care of you so far. So why would it not take care of you tomorrow? You think of it around you. You look around you. What are you in control of anyways? Can you control the day and night cycle? Oh, tomorrow there should not be any day. Can you change that? Can you control the seasons? Can you control when and how the flowers will blossom? Can you control how the rainbow will shine or will show its beautiful colors in the sky? What do you have control over anyways? Letting go of the control is letting go of your ego. Trusting the universe. The universe has an intelligence far bigger than what we can ever imagine. It has taken care of us so far. Why would it not take care of us tomorrow as we die? And why would it not take care of all the people we love if it has taken care of us and taken care of them so far? Yes. Do you think that you can really say that you were the only reason why your loved ones exist right now? Do you take 100% responsibility for the existence of your loved ones? No, right? There's some force, some energy that's taking care of them. Agreed? Are you with them 24/7 protecting them? No. There is some force that is taking care of them. Why wouldn't that force, that energy, take care of them when you are not around? Agreed? Is that helpful enough? Does that give you a little bit of relief, at least? Yeah. And in a way, I put this here. This is it's a deep scientific principle along with quantum physics that's called as Heisenberg's uncertainty principle. You know, in a way, everything in this universe is uncertain. There is no way for us to know what is going on. And the Heisenberg's uncertainty principle really talks about that if you're trying to measure both the position and the velocity of a tiny particle, a subatomic particle, it's not possible to get an accurate measurement of both the position and the velocity. Because as you're trying to measure the position, then the velocity will change. As you try to measure the velocity, the position will change. In a way, there is so much of flux around us that as we try to measure something, we automatically change its behavior and therefore its very nature. So there is 100% uncertainty in the whole universe. The only certainty is that we as souls exist forever, and we as our physical identity will always die. And the certainty that the universe has taken care of us so far and our loved ones, it will take care of us and our loved ones in the future as well. Yeah, so now I don't know how much time we have. It's 12:19, so I have a little bit of time. So I'll talk about near-death experiences. I'm going to switch gears right now. There is a lot of learning that we have gotten in the recent years, especially because of one cardiologist, Pim van Lommel. He was a Dutch cardiologist who did a big study, and he looked at 350-ish patients who had a cardiac arrest. And out of it, 64 had near-death experiences. And so he documented all those, and there are many more researchers, including Raymond Moody, who have done a lot of work on this. And there are almost 25 million people around the world who have had a near-death experience in the past 50 years. And here are some of the experiences of people who have had these kind of experiences. And there's this book written by Dr. Pim van Lommel. The name of the book is Consciousness Beyond Life, The Science of the Near-Death Experience. And let me read some of these. So the pinnacle of everything there is, of energy, of love, especially of warmth, of beauty. Yeah, these are the people who had near-death experiences. You know what are near-death experiences, right? That people would kind of go into a state where they would be medically dead. The doctors would say, "Oh, this person is dead," and then they would come back into the body and will live their lives, and they will be able to share their stories. You know, some people would have that kind of, dying kind of a phase, but they would not have this kind of an experience to share. and some would. And so the people who were able to share their experiences, all that information has been documented. Then the next experience by someone else was, it seemed as if time and distance didn't exist. I was everywhere at once, and sometimes my attention was focused on something, and I was there too. And I asked if God was light, and the answer was, no, God is not the light. The light is what happens when God breathes. I think somebody said, I think death is a really nasty, bad lie. And then on return, a single loving thought would let me be part of the whole again. Then this was, I think he was another physician, or can't remember about this gentleman, John Burke. I think he was a pastor. Can't remember exactly what his origin was, but he had this near-death experience, and he wrote a book, Imagine Heaven, in which he said, I went through this dark black vacuum at super speed. You could compare it to a tunnel. I saw a bright light, and on my way there, I heard beautiful music, and I saw colors I had never seen before. The light was of a kind that I'd never seen before, and that differs from any other kind, such as sunlight. It was white and extremely bright, and yet you could easily look at it. It's the pinnacle of everything there is, of energy, of love, especially of warmth, of beauty. I was immersed in total love. And this was a neurosurgeon who had a very bad brain infection. And so he had near-death experience as well. And he wrote this book, Proof of Heaven, in which he said, I was encountering the reality of a world of consciousness that existed completely free of the limitations of my physical brain. My experience showed me that death of the body and the brain are not the end of consciousness. And then some of you know the story of Anita Moorjani, who wrote this book, Dying to Be Me, in which, it's very interesting what happened to her. And so she ended up with non-Hodgkin's lymphoma, where, you have, this is a cancer of the lymph nodes. And so she ended up with huge lymph nodes throughout her body. And eventually she wasn't really responding to any of the chemotherapy and all. And there was a time when her whole body completely shut off. And so she had to be on all the life support things, including ventilator and so on. And then there was a moment when, all her body processes stopped working, which we call as physical death. And so the doctor said she's dead. But then she wasn't dead, or she had that near-death experience and came back. And in her book, she wrote, I continued to sense myself expanding further and further outward, drawing away from my physical surroundings. It was as though I was no longer restricted by the confines of space and time, and continued to spread myself and to occupy a greater expanse of consciousness. I simultaneously experienced a sense of joy mixed with a generous sprinkling of jubilation and happiness. Yeah, so she had such an amazing experience. And so interesting that she, while she was having that near-death experience, she could actually see her body lying on the bed, and she could see the doctors coming in, checking on the body, and so on and so forth. In fact, she could also see her brother, who was traveling from somewhere far, trying to come to meet her, as she was dying. And in fact, to see her body. And so she could see all this. And the interesting thing is that when she came back, within a few hours, her body started to recover. And in the next few days, her entire cancer was cured. And she was totally cured of everything. And she walked back home. And now she travels across the world, giving TED Talks about this interesting experience. So, and she also said, and then I was overwhelmed by the realization that God isn't a being, but a state of being. And I was now in that state of being. So what we have learned over time with these near-death experiences is that all of these people have a crystal clear consciousness, despite there's no flow to the brain, absolutely no flow of blood to the brain. There's a flat EEG, that we use many times to see if the brain is active at all. And all of them had realistic out-of-body experiences. All of them had a feeling of overwhelming love and peace and tremendous ecstasy. And then meeting spiritual beings. And then more commonalities were a panoramic life review. They all had an experience of God in some form or the other. They were introduced to or exposed to unlimited knowledge, or at least to a realm where all knowledge exists. All of them were shown the future. All of them saw a tunnel where at the end of the tunnel there was this beautiful bright light or being of light. Yeah, and when they came back, it's so interesting that their behavior totally changed. There was reduction in the fear of death. There was focus on here and now rather than preoccupation with death. There was sense of relative invulnerability. There was strong belief in continued existence. For all of them, there was a significant shift towards spirituality, change in values, priorities towards love and caring for others. So from egocentricity, they were into other-centered consciousness, that is caring about others rather than just the self. And the tendency to love unconditionally and increase empathy. There was decreased interest in status symbols and materialistic lifestyles for all of them. So this is so interesting. Think about it, that when people encountered these near-death experiences, that is, they had a death experience, but not quite, and they were able to come back to relate all these wonderful experiences they had, what they saw, what they felt, and none of them, absolutely none of them, shared something which was scary or bad. So think about it. Death cannot be bad. If so many stories tell us that it was a great experience. In fact, such a beautiful experience that when they come back, their life transforms completely. So think about it. Our death, will it be bad or can it be bad? Yeah. So does that help you with your fear of death? That my death cannot be really bad. And I have seen, as a physician, as a cardiac anesthesiologist, as an intensivist, I have had the privilege, if you will, of seeing many more people than any one of you would have seen dying in front of me. I've seen way too many deaths, of people dying in my hands, including my own father and my own mother. And so I have seen that even for people who are, which we would call as bad people, if you will, murderers and criminals, even when they die, it is possible that a few minutes to a few hours before death, they may be in pain. But as soon as death happens, I've seen it over and over and over again. There's such a beautiful calm on the face. The face changes completely, becomes almost like an angelic face, almost like the face becomes soft, face becomes beautiful, the face looks kind. Even if it is a criminal who was, a life of all the worst things you can think of. I've had the chance to take care of these people too. And I've seen that death suddenly changes everything, brings such a beautiful calm on the face, and the face looks beautiful actually. So death cannot be bad. In fact, death cannot be painful, truly speaking. It is the time before death can be painful, but death in a way liberates us from all pain. So why are we afraid of death? Yeah, so death is a culmination of pain. if there is. And so here I want to talk a little bit about helping our loved ones transition, and in general, helping everyone around us transition. What I realized that if I am not able to reconcile with this whole aspect of dying, if I haven't processed my own fear of death, I cannot help my patients who are in fear as well. I won't be able to take them out of their fear. And not just the patients, even my loved ones, because my attachment to them will pull them back into their physicality and create actually a more painful experience for them to live. But also in general, if I have not processed the fear of pain, I won't be able to give them the love, the empathy, the compassion, the respect, the dignity that is needed as they transition to their next bodies. And for me, I remember that as my mom was transitioning, the many months before that, actually, when she was living with me in America for many months, I had programmed her every day. I would talk to her in a very kind way and help her understand this whole process of transitioning. And then I actually got even my sister, I think she's also sitting in this right now, listening to this talk, into understanding about death and how we need to be able to release our loved ones so they can transition. And I remember there was one time when I talked to my mom, I said, "Mom, I give you the permission to leave. Go. Yeah, we don't want to hold you back. You've done enough for everyone. You've done enough that needed to be done. And now you're free to leave." And I think all of these things helped her. And when I came back, because I had to come back to US for a little bit, my mom was in India, and I went there, and the last breath she took in my hands. And at that moment, there was this sigh of relief for her. And the feeling, actually, there was no pain, there was no suffering, there was no crying, and my sister was there too. And it was this beautiful feeling that the soul has now exited from this old, decaying, almost dead body, literally, because there was cancer everywhere, and all these systems were shutting down anyways. So now the soul will go on to the next lifetime. And so we helped her transition, but we can help them transition or help people around us transition only when we have understood the real significance of death. Yeah. And so how are we doing with time? Is this it? 12:30, this is where we do the questions and answers. And I was going to take us all through a little bit of meditation experience as we go along. And before we go on to this end of life experiences, I thought that we can stop for a moment, and I could feel some questions, or maybe even take us through a little bit of meditation experience.
We will take some questions, Sritang, if that's okay, and then we will go into the meditation. That's fine.
Sure. Yeah. If anybody wants to ask or say something.
Yeah, thank you for the class. Feel good to hear all this, but it's hard to remember every day. So do you have any tip for that? How do we?
See, what has happened is we are so programmed to remember what is right in front of us, that what is not in front of us, we tend to put it on the back burner. But it's important that we now bring it into our conscious awareness and remind ourselves of these things day in and day out. So the choice is ours, because if we don't do that, there will be more suffering at the end. And if we want to free ourselves of that suffering, it's important that we work towards it right now. In a way, what Raj Yoga teaches us is to practice dying, if you will. And again, practice dying doesn't mean that, you're really leaving the body or anything like that, but it's like, it's the death of the ego. So every day, if we remind ourselves that we are not our physical existence and all that we have amassed over or acquired over our lifetimes, and we slowly start to deconstruct the ego in all its different, manifestations, that it shows itself to us, then over time, we will be more prepared to go through death for ourselves, which is again the most inevitable thing of life. Yeah. And so for a little bit, I also want to talk about this end of the life experiences and what we are now. There's a whole lot of research in this, and they're finding out that people, when they go through, the end of life, the last part of their life, there are lots of beautiful experiences that happen. And that is the time for many people to reconcile with what they didn't get a chance to reconcile throughout their lifetime. So say if they had a grudge against someone, or someone has harmed them, then they would have dreams of that person saying that I apologize, or they will have dreams of them going to that person and apologizing. Or there have been so many cases where people have said that, just before, a day before they died, they would say that I was visited by a family member who is long dead, or I was visited by many family members, all of them were dead. And so in a way, they came for that person to help give a feeling that that person is not alone, and that it's okay, to transition to a new lifetime, or it's okay to die. So there are so many examples of that. So sometimes one of this fear is to die alone. Really, no one dies alone. Even if you are alone, you are visited by a lot more people, and including, all the loved ones, or all the people who have already left, who will, maybe hold your hand and help you in the process. So this is what we have understood after a lot of research in this area, that the end of life experiences are also extremely meaningful. Yeah, they teach us a lot too. And so a couple of things. I think Pooja has raised her hand, but I just want to go through this little bit too, that, there are, in a way, 5 or 6 types of death. One is death within seconds to a few hours. Say, for example, somebody has a massive heart attack, or maybe an accident, or maybe a homicide, or maybe a suicide, a death within seconds to a few hours. Then there is another type of death would be death within hours to few days. Say if you have non-lethal heart attack, it might take a few days to die. And then there's death within few days to few months. Sometimes like heart failure, you go up and down. It takes months for the person to die. And then there's death that occurs over years. This could be either like, say, cancer, that is going on for several years, or it could be, just frailty, old age. There could be death where you're not aware of it. Like, people say, I want to die when I'm asleep. Yeah. Or there could be death where you're aware of. Yeah. Now, out of all of these, which death would you choose if you have a chance to choose? Let me see if what I have presented made sense to you. in sleep. Yeah, that's not an uncommon wish. Yeah, to die in sleep. But if I say that death itself, the experience of death, is an amazingly beautiful experience, yeah, then would you not want to be awake to see it? So say, for example, when we are driving from here, South Carolina to New York, we pass through Virginia and these beautiful mountains. And I don't want to be asleep, even if I'm not driving, even if my wife is driving, I don't want to be asleep. I say, hey, wake me up so that I can see these beautiful mountain sides, this greenery, and especially if you go, during the July, August months, it's so beautiful. So in a way, yeah, my hope was that this presentation gave you a new perspective towards death, that it is not painful, it is not a terrible thing, it's a beautiful occurrence. Then why would you not want to die, yeah, wide awake? Why do you want to die asleep? Aware of death. Yes, see? So that's the beauty of this. And in a way, a lot of people talk about in scriptures, there's this understanding of Samadhi. What is Samadhi? It's the, when you hear of these enlightened souls who would feel that they have done what they had to do. Yeah, they have lived their lives so meaningfully. Every moment of their lives, they have lived with purpose, a clear purpose, serving mankind, serving humanity, doing the best they can ever do. Yeah, not stuck in their own egos. Yeah, like many of us are, still stuck in me and mine, serving humanity in the best possible way. Then at a certain point, there's this beautiful feeling that I've done enough. I've done what I was sent to do on this earth, and now it's time for me to go. And that's really Samadhi. But when can that be experienced? When truly we have lived our lives that meaningfully. So my hope is that I can inspire each one who is sitting here listening to this, and for all those people who listen to this recorded message, is that if not so far, now can be that turning point in your life that you can start living each moment, each day of your life with a purpose, a clear purpose, a higher purpose. Live meaningfully, to serve others, to care about others, to do the best that we can ever do, to serve God, to serve humankind, to live that the highest life and with those highest principles. Yeah, then we will have a beautiful, meaningful life, and then we'll have a beautiful, meaningful death. Yeah, with that, I can end. We can do some meditation in a way of practicing death. But again, since we have a few minutes, I am happy to field any questions you may have. I think Pooja raised her hand. I saw there was a message that came on my screen.
Om Shanti. Thank you, Bhaiji, for this such wonderful session. A quick question. After death, they say that souls take another birth, which may happen, I don't know, and that's again a question, few days, months, years. How does that get decided? And I don't know if I can get answers to all questions. And if the soul takes rebirth, would they still be able to visit their families? As you said, that they sometimes visit you to assure that you're not alone. Do this, if even after taking rebirth, do they still, or can they still revisit you?
Yeah, these are great questions. See, first of all, our future, what happens at death, immediately after death, and in the next lifetime, depends on the life that we are leading right now. So if I'm leading a beautiful, meaningful, purposeful life, then my death would be the same, beautiful. My transition period, when I would be going into the next body, will be beautiful. And my next lifetime and the future lifetimes will be beautiful. So in other words, this, what we are seeing and what we are understanding, through Raj Yoga and through ancient scriptures, is that the time period for a soul to not have a body is kind of like a strange feeling, almost like a locked in feeling. And if the soul has not done the right actions through the body in the previous lifetime, then the chances of existing in that state are higher and for longer period of time. So everything boils down to how we are performing our actions at this time, how we are living our lives in this present moment. Yeah. And also the second part of your question, can we revisit? Yeah. See, in a way to understand that at the quantum field level, this all one existence. We are all part of one ocean. We are all different waves. In fact, the entire universe is manifesting through each one of us in a different way, but it's manifesting the same universe, through each one of us. We are all parts of this giant ocean of energy, really. And so we are so interconnected that in that soul existence, we can visit anywhere. In fact, actually, we know through regression hypnosis, and there are people who remember their past lives, and there are people who have visited their families even in the physical, let alone in the spiritual way, or the non-physical way. And so that happens. But all that is not that important, if you will. The most important is, and that I want to re-emphasize for everyone, is that if I want my death and my future lives to be happy, meaningful, then I have to bring meaning and happiness to my current existence. And the second part is, I have to kill my ego at this time voluntarily, because otherwise at death, my ego will be killed anyways, involuntarily. It's better to kill it, better to deconstruct it right now, that I am a soul and nothing but a soul. I am a life force, an energy that is eternal, and all these things that I've acquired around me that I feel is what identifies me is actually a total illusion. Matter is an illusion. So let me let go of these. Let me let go of my attachment of all that I've acquired. Helpful enough?
Thank you. Thank you very much.
All right. Anything else? I think we are running out of time now, so we can have a few minutes of meditation together. So I invite all of you to just sit relaxed for a little bit and let go of all those things that have kind of pulled your attention so far, or on a regular basis does pull your attention. And if I may request all of you to mute your microphones, that would be appreciated. And so for a little bit, let go of all of those things and just remind yourself that you are a soul, a point of light, a point of energy, a wave, a beautiful wave through which the ocean of energy, the universe of energy manifests itself through you. You're none of those different identities that you have acquired so far. None of those things that you thought you are based on what the society and the world has taught you. You're not your name, you're not your body, you're not your religion, you're not your gender, you're not your position in the society, you're not your profession, your ideas, your beliefs, your thoughts, your dreams, your memories. You're merely a soul, pure potentiality. That's all you are. The more you can stay in this consciousness, the more you'll be able to deconstruct your ego, kill your ego. And the more you can kill your ego, the more meaningful your current existence will be. And in this state of pure consciousness, you're connected to everything and everyone around you, the entire universe. You are because everyone else is. And everyone else is because you are. So if you do the right actions, if you live a meaningful life, if you bring happiness to your life, you're able to bring meaning and happiness into others' lives as well. And see yourself doing that right now, bringing happiness and meaning to others' lives. You can call this as a karmic credit. This is what's going to help you transition. Because the art of dying comes from the art of living, and vice versa. Now that you've understood that death is inevitable, and yet the ultimate lie, you can live your life in such a beautiful way that your death becomes the most beautiful experience ever. See yourself becoming free from any fear of death whatsoever, because now you have understood the entire dynamics of life and death and everything in between. Total freedom from the fear of death. The only way to be liberated from death is to be free from the fear of death. the only way to be free from the fear of death is to live your life in the most meaningful way, in the way God wants us to live. Om Shanti. Thank you.
Om Shanti. Thank you so much, Sritang Bhai. I think today's topic is having a lot of interest and we can go more and more longer, but looking at the time, we have to put a full stop for today. And I am sure those who have joined have been here since 2 hours, have taken great benefit. I am seeing lots of thank yous and lots of insight they have received. And I'm sure this will help all of us to be ready, to be prepared ourselves, as well as to help many others in our life. So thank you very much, all of you who have joined, but also to our great speaker, Sritang Bhai. Thank you so much. Om Shanti. And have a very wonderful afternoon, everyone. In case you have missed your announcement, any of the from the beginning, you can see the slides right now and make a note of it. And you can visit our website as well for any future events. Everything is on Zoom. Om Shanti. Thank you once again.
And I just want to say that if you want to learn about the Raj Yoga meditation that I was talking about, you can connect to the Cinnamonson Center. There is this information, the Facebook/TMC Cinnamonson, and you have their phone numbers, and you have lots of lovely teachers who can teach you the Raj Yoga meditation that can actually free you. And it has freed me from the fear of death. And so it can actually help you as well, as much as it helped me. All right. Thank you. Om Shanti.
Can the slide be printed? Can be printed.